And we are live. Welcome to Nerdside Champs. I am Tim. That is my cohort, Dan. We are the Nerd Champs. We are joined tonight by two incredibly important individuals in this world. We are talking, of course, about Jonathan from Comic Book Cinema. Jonathan, say hi to the people.
Hi to the people. Nice to see the people.
And Jason from Jason Explains It All. You've probably heard of him. Jason, go ahead and say hi to the people.
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right, and Dan, you are fighting the virus, but you are here with us. So
yes, I am. I have been bravely fighting the virus for about a week.
Is it the vid? Is it?
This far in, I have not taken the test because why? You know what I'm saying? Like, really, like, what does it matter? I've been sick for over a week, and symptoms are. I thought it was a cold, then I thought maybe the flu, but based on how long I've been sick and the symptoms that have came, I'm like, this was probably COVID. But it doesn't really matter now. Now I'm just, I'm on the backside of it. I think I will be okay. I meant to bring tissues in here with me. So if I dart away, it isn't because I'm angry at something somebody said. It's because I need something to catch what is dripping from my nose. That will be why I have to leave in a hurry.
I'm glad we all could be here. We haven't had the four of us a discussion in a long time, and I feel like this is a good discussion for the four of us to have because this is something that I think the four of us have talked about at length. We've talked about box office returns. We've talked about these studios and kind of their plans and kind of where they're failing, kind of where they're succeeding. But basically, our topic tonight is going to be: are action movies dead? And are action movies even a thing that people want to go to the theaters to see anymore? I think one of the big things that's spurning this is over the last year, we have had just some really horrendous box office returns. Marvel had 3 movies in 2025. None of those movies did well at the box office, right? Superman was supposed to be the big summer blockbuster, and it didn't even break 650, 700. It was like, it was very, very poor. And then we had Masters of the Universe just came out. That did not do well at the box office at all. In fact, not only did it not do well, I think it's even underperforming what people anticipated. It's going to struggle to get to 150 total for its whole run, probably. And then we're taking a look at Mandalorian and Grogu. Star Wars hasn't even had anything in theaters for years. This is the first Star Wars thing in theaters in years, and it's going to struggle. So I think that the question needs to be asked: are action movies dead? I think there's a few outliers out there that we've seen in the recent years, and we'll talk about those. But by and large, in the aggregate, are action movies dead at the box office, and why? So let's go ahead and start with Jonathan. Jonathan, tell us what.
Wait. I have a statement. Dan
has a statement. Dan has a statement as well.
I pushed this topic, so I want to set the stage. I want everybody to know I pushed this on everybody, so I want them to understand where I'm coming from. That tonight's stream is a little different. I know we're all about debate on Nerd Champs and argument, but this is a support group. What we're having right now. It's a support group for people who grew up believing movies were events, people who stood in line for midnight premieres, the people who saw trailers and thought, I have to see that. Okay. The people believe that when a big franchise movie came out, the whole world stopped for a weekend, because right now it feels different. And I don't think I'm the only one feeling it. We, like Tim said, we just watched Masters of the Universe arrive with a recognizable brand, positive audience reactions, and a lot of nostalgia behind it. And it died on the launching pad. Mandalorian and Grogu was bringing one of the biggest streaming hits from one of the biggest cinematic brands in history to the cinema. And it doesn't feel like a Star Wars event. And it wasn't just 2026. I tried to look up when was the last time, and we're using the broadest possible definition of action tonight. We're not just segmenting it like Die Hard. We're talking about superhero movies, Indiana Jones adventure movies, spy movies, and also pure action fight car chase movies. Anything that's action spectacle. So the last time it really performed to expectations or overperformed was Deadpool and Wolverine and Bad Boys Ride or Die, and those were both 2 years ago. So since then, like we've had Marvel movies, Star Wars, we've had all of these, and the common thing isn't that audiences hate them; it's that the audience are saying, "I'll get to it," and they just don't go to the theater anymore. And that might be the most dangerous thing a movie can hear. And but before we bury Hollywood and close all the theater chains, I've got Tim here to keep me from going into a midlife movie crisis. Jonathan is here to help to try to convince me that superheroes aren't dead yet. And Jason is here to tell us that horror movies will save cinemas. All right. We're going to try to find rays of sunshine. We're going to find a way for it. They're going to convince me that the movie industry as a whole is not dead. That's what I'm hoping by the end of tonight. So we'll start like Tim said with Jonathan. Convince us that superheroes have some gas in the tank, that they're gonna carry us through and keep cinematic culture alive.
Oh man, honestly, I think I have the toughest sell here, Dan. And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that. Okay, starting off with the genres, right? It seems like Gen Z and the younger generation as a whole really is showing us with their wallets and their attention that they don't care about all the stuff that we cared about. I know we've talked about that before too.
Yeah.
But that's a big part of it. And as much as I hate to admit it, we're starting to become outdated. Our preferences, our likes, He-Man, even the superhero genre. We all knew this day would come. I just dreaded and hoped that it wouldn't come as soon as it appears to be coming. I know for a fact that Avengers Doomsday is going to at least hit $1 billion. But even that for a movie like Avengers Doomsday is honestly, I wouldn't call it a success. If it barely scrapes over that 1 billion mark, maybe it'll hit 1.5, but I do not see it doing more than that. And we're talking, out of the other previous 4 Avenger films, that's the lower tier, 1.5. So superhero movies, like I said, I don't think that is what Gen Z wants anymore. They're kind of over it, especially with a lot of the mediocrity that we've gotten as well. Say what you want to about Superman. Say what you want to about Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts. I love Thunderbolts, but it did not make any money.
No.
So, like I said, I think I have the toughest sell. But one more thing I want to go back to, and I'll let the next person go. But the biggest thing to take away from all of this is movie studios have done this to themselves. At the end of the day, for years and years, maybe almost a decade, they have been pushing for a shorter and shorter and shorter theatrical window. And now they finally have it. By the way, in layman's terms, the theatrical window, back in the day, it used to be a year when a film would finish its theatrical run in theaters, and it would take a whole year before it would be on home video. So back in the 90s, we felt like it was a priority. If we wanted to see Star Wars Episode 1, we went to go see it in the theaters because we knew we'd have to wait a year before it came out on video. So
it was like a whole other event. It was like a whole other event when it came out.
It was a whole other thing.
Not to mention we didn't have internet back in those days. So if you wanted to go see a trailer, you had to go to the theater. But it was more exclusive and it felt more special in those times. Mm-hmm. But now movie studios have really shot themselves in the foot. Sure, a lot of these movie studios have their own streaming services that they want to promote with, valuable properties. But what they don't realize is when they take their movie out of theaters so quickly and turn around and just drop it on Netflix in a month or whatever else, Disney Plus, the movie instantly becomes way less valuable. So that's the biggest problem in my mind, and along
just,
with all the woke BS too.
Just real quick with something that Jonathan just said, he just kind of hit exactly something like Mandalorian and Grogu comes out the end of next month on streaming, available for purchase. Okay, the end of next month. Okay, that's like 45 days after its theatrical release, and I have a friend that wants to take his kids to see it. Right, he wants to take his kids to see it, but he's no dummy. He says to himself, why would I pay that much when in 45 days we can just watch it at home for $20? You know what I mean? Like, why would I do that? You know what I mean? Pay for tickets for all the kids. He's got 4 kids. Pay for tickets for all the kids and my wife. Pay for snacks for the kids and my wife. You know, pay for whatever other merchandise and everything that they want to buy while they're there. $250 to go see it, or $20 to watch it at home. You know, that's the decision that a lot of people are having to make, right? And I think that's exactly what you were talking about there, Jonathan. The studios are doing this to themselves. You used to not have that option, right? If you want to see it within the next year, you have to see it when it's in theaters. That's what it used to be. So yeah, that's a good point.
Jason, I'm not feeling up yet, but Jason is going to convince us that horror movies are going to save the theater for us. So he's probably got examples and numbers.
All right, let me flesh out this idea. Maybe not only horror movies, but you got to understand, when I was growing up, like early teens, the movies that I liked were not big budget action movies. I liked those, but the movies that I fell in love with were your $10 to $20 million low budget mid-tier movies that came out, and I looked at it and I said, that's a good story and I could make that movie one day. I think that is the future, and that is what's going to end up saving movies, because if you have 6 or 7 movies that are just consistently hanging out and making money, Obsession is going to break 400 million. Back Rooms is going to break 400 million. Those two budgets together, it doesn't even make one of these Marvel movies, and the writing is so much better. It's an original idea. There's no sky beam. There's no terrible CGI. I think that is the future, and that is how we save film in general and theaters.
So these horror movies are bringing in some revenues, but I'm gonna the modern theater. What's that? Go ahead.
Yeah, you're breaking up. My internet must be just awful tonight.
Okay, are you guys hearing me good?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, okay. You're good. So anyway,
let me try to back out and come back in.
Okay. Tim, can you put him back in?
When he comes back in, I got him.
The horror movies are making money for the studio. The ROI is high, but the entire culture of multiplex cinemas, and I'm not even talking about the last 20 years. I'm talking since Jaws, since Star Wars came out in 1977, has been built around the giant action adventure sci-fi spectacle, the giant monster mega hit that makes theaters make money. So when I look at something like horror films, right? Jason just said those two horror movies together are going to bring in somewhere around $600-700 million. So say they get to $700 million. And those are massive successes for a horror movie, right? That's the same amount that a massive superhero failure brings in. I mean, that's right in line with what Superman brought in by itself. It's like maybe $50-100 million more, but Superman is not considered a raging success by anybody, especially financially, because it costs so much to make. And I think theaters are built on the idea that we'll have $4 or $5 billion action spectacles a year. If you don't have theaters, because you don't have those, right? Because the theater, it doesn't matter if the studio made money or not. They get 50% or whatever percent they get of the ticket price, whether the studio has recouped the production costs or not. So, if the theater doesn't exist because the big blockbuster doesn't exist, then the mid-tier horror movie that's making all this money because it didn't cost much to produce, it can't recoup its investment because the theater isn't even there anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's a fear that I have too, that the theater isn't even there for the horror movie to make money because the theater needed the big action blockbuster. Jason, you got something?
Yeah, counterpoint to that. I remember there being a time where you had 2 big blockbusters every year. Like 96 is a big example for me. You had Independence Day and you had, I think, Titanic. Was that 96 as well?
I think that's around.
No, I think Titanic was 97, I believe.
Okay. But you remember, like, I remember growing up there being a time where there was a bunch of mid-tier movies and one big movie. Mm-hmm. And those big movies were memorable, but you spent your time going up to the smaller ones. Also, it's cheaper for these studios to get theatrical runs for these mid-tier indie movies. I wouldn't necessarily just say horror because horror is not for everybody, but I believe that's your model. Obsession stayed in theaters a lot longer than any movie I can remember. It's still in theaters. It doesn't leave theaters until next weekend. And Backrooms there's no release date for Backrooms to come out. So those movies are staying in there. I mean, so I think that's you have to lower what you're spending so these theaters can keep these cheaper movies in. And the studios don't have to, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
$700 million on a $3 million budget is insane. And like I said, A24 probably didn't spend near as much to keep it in the theater as Superman.
Jason, try taking
your headphones out. Yeah, because I think your audio is worse than it was for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can hear it all now.
That's much better.
Oh yeah. That's better.
That's
way better.
That's much better.
Yeah.
Way better.
No.
Anyway. Like worlds better. All right.
So Jason has a strong point. Tim was saying that The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be on Disney Plus within about 45 days of hitting theaters, whereas Obsession will be in theaters 2 or 3 times that long. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Cheaper to keep those in the theater because Obsession had I think I read Focus spent $15 million on that whole deal, plus another probably like $20 million. So they have $45 million locked up in it, let's say, for advertisement and everything. So now you're looking at it's going to make at least $400 million. So you times your investment times 100, and the theaters are loving the fact that Obsession is still out.
Yeah, so with horror, I feel like one of the big things with horror is that you have the opportunity to build a property if you can actually hit on something that people want to see again. You know, that we know that there have always been tons of horror sequels and a lot of them have not been very good. But if you can actually build like the Terrifier series or the Conjuring series or something like that, where you actually can build something that's actually artistic and well done, and people say, I want to see more of that. That's where you actually get your ROI from horror, because horror doesn't make a lot of money, but horror doesn't cost a lot of money either, right? And I think that's kind of the thing is trying to kind of build the property. I just don't know if that's going to be enough to save theaters from the fact that people aren't flocking there for action movies anymore. I don't know. That's just me.
Jonathan, you look like you had we got comments, but Jonathan looked like he had responses ready for some of the things Jason was saying.
I did, but I'm so ADHD, I probably mostly forgot it. But look, the horror thing, the Terrifier, I understand there's a cult following for that. And exactly. You made a good point, Tim. You made a good point. It doesn't cost that much either, right? Mm-hmm. But, at the end of the day, I think, Dan, I don't know if you brought this up on the stream already, but I know you always talk about this in our group chat. those movies, they aren't really like helping theaters a whole lot at the end of the day, right? Theaters need a lot of money coming in right now if they're going to stay afloat.
Well, because they're spending a gajillion dollars to keep these massive hits, like massive Disney and Marvel and Star Wars movies in the theater.
I don't know that that's the reason. I think it's more so.
It doesn't hurt.
I think it's more so that, you know, mediocrity fatigue, along with what I was talking about earlier, the reduced theatrical window, movie theater experiences feeling like less of an experience, more of a hassle. We got more ads in front of movies now as well. There's a lot of different factors, honestly. But yeah, as someone who loves the movie theater experience, I hate to say this, but I think that it's very possible in the next 5 years that we might not have that many theaters anymore. It might be a very niche market.
Yeah.
But you have to admit, keep going back to it because it's what's popular right now. Obsession does not cost near as much to run in your theater as
But that's not the point. You still got to get butts in the seats in order to keep the theaters open. Okay?
Yeah,
the fact that the studio is making money doesn't mean the theater's making money, and that's the problem.
Because the theater doesn't absorb the production costs. They got to pay their lease and they're keep the lights on, the air conditioning.
Yeah, the theater also has to pay for rights to show the movie. Like it's an investment into it.
Do they?
Yeah.
What's
that?
I feel like that's all pre-negotiated with the studios, though. That's all pre-negotiated with the studios. The individual films have nothing to do with that. The individual films have nothing to do with that. That's all pre-negotiated with the studios.
Yeah. So, now if you got a small studio, right, you may be able to negotiate a better percentage. You know what I'm saying? Like if you got a small studio with a small film, maybe the house could get like 55% of the box office or 45. But then if you're dealing with Disney with a monster mega movie, maybe you only get 35 or 40% on opening weekend or something like that. But it's all about a percentage of the ticket sales. So, but I mean, they need big numbers. Go ahead.
I have a very anecdotal thing to add to this. Jonathan might be the only one who will appreciate this. You know the Brookhaven Theater, right, Jonathan? So I went to see Obsession in it. I went to see Backrooms in it. Both full theaters, right? Then the next weekend, I went to see He-Man. Nobody was in my theater for He-Man. But
that's pretty standard.
Nobody
was in any theater to see He-Man.
Bathrooms were completely full. Like they turn people away in Brookhaven's theater. Like that is a big deal. Like, and more studios will put more movies out like that. And then I think that I don't necessarily think it'll be horror. I just think we're going to see the resurgence of Must Love Dogs. I don't know if y'all remember that movie, but it's like a $5 million rom-com.
But so anyway, let's get into the comments. Let's see what we all have to say to what's in here. We have my pants are wet. Which studio has fumbled the worst? It has to be Disney, right? I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of a studio that's done more.
Done less with more.
Whether it goes from quality to sequel fatigue to franchise fatigue to day and date. You know what? Actually, Warner Brothers was really big during COVID on day and date release. So when you get away from the quality,
Christopher Nolan away.
Yeah,
I do feel like if there's somebody that has really, really fumbled, though, I feel like Disney has to be it. You've got Star Wars, Marvel, Indiana Jones, Predator, Alien. I mean, what else am I missing, guys? I mean, how many total flops are they going to do?
They bought their whole childhood.
Great IPs, you know what I mean? And that's the thing. If we're taking a look at production, at money spent and ROI, I feel like Disney is going to be one of those that's like very, very set apart from the rest. That's what I'm saying.
I think Dan was kind of onto something with Warner Brothers, though. I never thought about that, but I mean, like I mentioned earlier, they literally scared away the best director of our generation, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Because you don't agree, Jason? he's got a lot
The
of
most
bangers.
popular, at least, the most bankable.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's
definitely.
the Stanley Kubrick of our generation right now. But you know, I will say that some of his newer films I haven't liked as much as his older stuff. But you know, also they literally released all those big budget movies straight onto their streaming service, and they were the first studio that did that with Wonder Woman 89 or 84. They did it with Kong versus Godzilla, Mortal Kombat 2021. So yeah, they and didn't they also do that with the first Dune, if I'm not mistaken?
I saw
It depends on how close to COVID
remember.
it was. They might have.
I
don't
think they did it
remember.
with the first Dune, and I think that's kind of what perturbed Mr. Nolan. Is when he basically tweeted out, you went to sleep thinking you were working with the best movie studio, but you woke up realizing that you worked for, you know, the worst streaming service, something along those lines, you know.
Yeah. So I
think
mean, structurally, they. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
Jonathan.
just real quick. You know, I'm not a Snyder bro, and at the end of the day, the end of the DCEU was the beginning of those massive flops in the superhero movie realm with The Flash, Blue Beetle. They massively underperformed. I remember a time when Black Adam came out and it only made 400 million, and we were all shocked. We could not believe that. And then it started steadily declining. So the argument could be made that, you know, the
Aquaman 2 took a hit. I mean, there's a lot that
the argument could be made that the reason Superman underperformed was because of the DCEU, you know, maybe the bad taste in the mouths of the fans. So, Warner, I think I would vote Warner. Honestly, I think that they started the floodgates.
Yeah, the Flash.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say the Flash and Blue Beetle, you could maybe try to explain away as, you know, there wasn't an audience for these characters. But when you're looking at Aquaman 2 and Shazam 2, with both came out and I mean, you can make arguments on either one that they weren't as good as their predecessors. But, I mean, that really shouldn't matter considering that superhero movies make such a huge portion of their money on opening weekend. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the fact that Warner Brothers decided to abandon the DCEU with all of this content in the pipeline and yet told everybody what they were going to do and pushed it through into theaters anyway, you know, like they just told everybody up front, we've already abandoned this whole thing, but, you know, we've got this shit that we made and, you know, we want you to buy a ticket to it anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, here, go see it. And that was relationship damaging. I mean, really, just be like, you know, spend $60 to see this movie that we don't like enough to keep going in this direction. You know, so I think Jonathan may have hit on something there. That was a relationship damaging moment between that studio and studios in general and their audience.
And you know who actually has figured something out though, Dan? Is
What's
Universal. That? Universal has figured out exactly what sells right now. What sells right now is family movies, and that's what they're focused on. Minions, Mario Brothers, you know, all the other Illumination stuff that they've had come out, like Migration and the Secret Life of Pets and all this other stuff that they've had, right? All that stuff is hitting. Garfield. It's all hitting heavy right now, right? Because they know right now if people are going to spend money to go to the theaters, it's going to be when they can take their whole family to see something, because you're not going to spend $200 if everybody's going to like it except the daughter, or if everybody's going to like it except the son, or if everybody's going to like it except mom. No. Everybody's got to like it. That's the rule. And they're the one studio that I think has figured this out. All right. People will, even though they know that it's going to be in streaming service in 60 days or whatever it is, they absolutely will still spend money to go see it.
And that's another
Nolan now.
The death of the 4-quadrant blockbuster is really important here, because now the only thing that gets the whole family into a theater together are kids movies or animation, the Minions and stuff
That's
like
it.
that.
That's it.
Before the 4-quadrant action blockbuster was built specifically to solve that problem, because instead of the parents being dragged to the theater to show their kids a cartoon, they were designed to be films that the whole family could enjoy. I mean, I took my whole family to see Iron Man. And you know, even though my kids were like 8 and 9 years old, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't a family film in that it's made specifically for little kids, but you know, I could enjoy it thoroughly, you know, in my, I can't do the math right now. I don't have the date in my head, but like 30s, you know, or whatever. And my kids could too. And they're not like, a horror movie can't do that. A heavy sci-fi movie like Project Hail Mary or Dune can't do that, you know, but Indiana Jones used to be able to do that.
Exactly.
You know, Marvel used to be able to, Marvel did that for over 20 years, you know, but now the only thing that gets the whole family out of the house is a little yellow guy screaming banana, you know?
Yeah.
Jason, you were
going back to what studio I think fumbled it. I have to agree with Jonathan. I think it was Warner Brothers. I know he will disagree with me when I say this, but hiring Snyder was the biggest mistake that they could have made. They took a guy who literally, in my opinion, didn't care about the source material and wanted to deconstruct all of it, and made that their like plethora of the universe. So I think that was the first one. Then after they did that, they were like, "Oh, we got to pull the plug real fast, and we got to change it," and it just never worked. And they've made a lot of like they messed up Tenet, the release of it, and lost Christopher Nolan, as you said. I just think Warner Brothers fumbled more than Disney. Like, I expect Disney to do Disney things, but Warner Brothers, I don't know. I was always, you know, because I'm more of a DC guy than a Marvel guy when it comes down to, you know, what I read. So it was more disappointing for Warner Brothers, definitely.
So Flash Ain't Fast wants to know, I mean, are studios actually the most to blame? Who's the most to blame for the client? Is it studios? Is it fans? Is it a streaming, or is it all three?
Fans are never to blame.
Oh,
you know, that's the narrative that I'm so tired of hearing. I'm tired of hearing actresses come out and blame the fans before movies come out, talk crap about Christian dads. And you would think that from the debacle that came from Rachel Ziegler, that actresses and actors would know what to do and what not to do on your promotional journey for a movie. So anytime, even when you look at The Boys, the writer for that show, Eric Kripke, you know, basically targets the fans that do not like his stuff. Oh, you don't like my movie with blatant political agendas? Well, you're the problem, you know? Don't watch it. And when studios and actresses and actors become comfortable saying something like that, that's a big problem. That's I mean, I think it's the studios, and they need to start coaching their actors to be more like actors were in the 80s, humble, grateful. I watched an interview recently with Harrison Ford from the late 80s, and the interviewer was being so just negative and saying a lot of derogatory things about him. Why weren't you on the top 10 actor list this year? Things like that. And he handled it like a champ. We need to get back. I mean, I understand, you know, I'm sure that when you're an actor or creative in that way, you get a lot of derogatory, especially these days, right? On social media. We've all tasted a little bit of that because we have our YouTube outlets and our social medias to kind of go along with it. I understand there's a lot of negativity, and it probably gets frustrating as an actor, actress, but you got to be a little more humble and grateful to the fans, because that's your bread. That's your money.
Mm-hmm. Jason, who's most to blame?
I mean, fans can be quite insufferable. Being a fan myself, I understand. But in all actuality, I think the biggest thing to blame was Studios who got too greedy. Marvel was going great when they were putting out 2 movies a year. But the problem is they started making 3 or 4, and they stuffed everything into them all that they could, and they stopped caring about good stories or good characters or good special effects, and it completely ruined the genre. Like, to the point now where I am taking my girls to see Supergirl next weekend. I know for a fact it's going to be the same thing. And I know that's not Marvel, but it's the same problem. Every movie is the same thing. And the Marvel didn't used to be like it.
Yeah. Tim, where do you fall on this question? Do you have?
I think it's a little bit of a combination of all three. I do think that the studios are going to take the lion's share of the blame. There's just no doubt about that, because there's just too much involved with what the studios do. All of the decisions they make, from when to release, when to put to streaming, what theaters to put it in, all that kind of stuff lies on the studios. And then, of course, they're the ones that have driven production costs up by just offering ridiculous amounts of money to actors that have no business making that much money. It's all on the studios 100%. To get all that kind of stuff in line. And then after that, then I place it on the fans. I think that the fans have had a little bit of a hand in it. Okay. I'm not going to say that the fans are the big ones here. I think that's the studio, but I do think that the fans occasionally have pushed really, really hard for things. And it's kind of one of those be careful what you wish for situations. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the idea of what a fan thinks they want versus what a fan actually gets is something that that we, for whatever reason, as fans, we have it in our mind that if we talk about something enough, that it'll just happen, right? That if we talk about Henry Cavill as Wolverine enough, then sooner or later there'll be enough buzz and Henry Cavill as Wolverine will happen. And then when Henry Cavill as Wolverine happens, we all are just like, well, that was weird. You know what I mean? What are we doing? So I think that we as fans think we know what we want, but we need to just let the creative people be the creative people and realize that, kind of pressuring them to do things our way isn't always the best. I think probably the best example of this is George in the original trilogy. In the original Star Wars trilogy, George didn't care what the fans thought. George was going to make his vision the way that he wanted to do it. And that was, the fans wanted a lot of different things for the second and third installments, but that's not what George wanted. George did what he wanted, and he's the creative mind. And when you put that, and look, have the studios totally dropped the ball in the creative recently? Absolutely. So that's why I give them the lion's share of the blame. But I think part of that has to do with them trying to appease fans that are never going to be happy anyway. So yeah, it's a combination of the three to me. We do have some new comments in here, Dan. I'm going to go ahead and get to those briefly, and then we'll hear yours real quick here. Okay. Pied Piper, I believe this is name, if I'm not mistaken, Dan, if I'm not mistaken. Again. The age of bad scripts has been around since 2015, 2017. And the peak of absurd is 2019 to 2026. We're waiting. Companies have high ping. It's also relevant for games. Yeah, I agree with that. That's something that we've seen in gaming as well. Microsoft has only just realized something is wrong. In 5 to 7 years, movies and games will begin to return the quality of the 2000s. I don't know about that. We'll have to see.
That's a hopeful.
There's a lot of we're kind of tapped out of source material to go back to get people in seats, but we'll see about that. So
I would have more hope for games than movies, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what did you have to say, Dan? I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, just piggybacking on what you were saying about the fans, is that Hollywood should listen to Buddy Ryan, the famous NFL coach, who said that if you listen to the fans, you'll be sitting with them. You can't.
Amen,
You
buddy.
can't let the fans do your job. They don't
You're
really
a Hall
know.
of Famer for a reason, buddy. You're a Hall of Famer for a reason. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I want to take the opportunity of saying like these three and who's to blame to point out the one that gets a lot of blame online. One thread that I want to directly attack on here is exhibitors are not to blame. There's a big thread throughout social media and YouTube where people say, "Oh, it's ticket prices. Ticket prices are too high." I did the research this week because, like, again, for 2 weeks in a row, I went to empty theaters and had a really good time. Me and Tim went to see The Mandalorian and Grogu together in an empty theater, and we're like, "Wow, that was great." And then I went with my wife while we were in Vegas because I was dedicated to wanting to see it. I took like 3 hours to drive there and back and go see it while we were in Vegas to see Masters of the Universe in an empty theater and had a great time. So, I've been really researching this and thinking about what is the problem. People say the ticket prices are too high. A standard, regular, just buy a ticket and go see a movie ticket is right in line with inflation. It is not outpaced inflation. It's not above inflation. When I was in high school, like in the late 90s, and I wanted to go to a movie, it was $7-8 to go to an evening, not a matinee. If you were going to movies on weekend night, it was $7-8. Now it's like $15 maybe. That's right in line with inflation. Yes, IMAX is expensive. Yes, 3D is expensive, and ScreenX and XD. All of those things are expensive. But if you just want to go see a movie, it costs about the same as it did back then. So they're not to blame. I'm going to blame studios, but not for the same reason we've been blaming studios. We have went over franchise fatigue, superhero fatigue, sequel fatigue, wokeness, and we have blamed all of those things. And there is merit in all of those. They're all contributing factors. But honestly, after, I started thinking back, I really liked Masters of the Universe. I really enjoyed Mandalorian and Grogu. And then I start going backwards from there. I didn't love Fantastic Four, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. I really liked Superman. I really liked Thunderbolts. I thought it was really good. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was it might be a little niche because it's a little bit more grounded and emotional for a superhero movie, but I don't know. I thought it was really good. So I started going like, I don't hate these movies, but they're still not making any money. So I think Jonathan nailed it at the beginning. I'm not going to blame streaming in general. I'm going to blame the studios for chasing streaming so hard. They saw this pot of gold. They thought it was going to be this big thing. And like Jonathan said, I've workshopped this stuff with AI. And I'm like, is this the problem? And it's like, oh, yeah, do you think they should go back to the 90-day window? Because in streaming terms, when streaming first started, that's when we collapsed to this 90-day window. And I'm like, 90 days? 90 days, that. I mean, we're down to 45 now, but 90 still isn't enough. Like Jonathan was saying, when we were younger, there was a true and real penalty involved with not getting out to the theater to see it, because no matter how big a hit it was, like if it was Titanic and it stayed in the theater for 6 months, right? When it left the theater, you were definitely still going to have to wait at least another 4, 5, 6, 7 months where you couldn't see it anywhere. There was like a movie left the theater and there was nowhere to see it at all for months. And you had just missed out. You had to wait until it hit the video shelf, and it wasn't the next day. Like streaming, these streaming releases, if a movie has long legs and manages to stay in the theater, it will be in the theater and on streaming at exactly the same time. Like I think Project Hail Mary is still having showings at the theater, but I think it's also on streaming. So again, you had to go see it because you wouldn't be part of the conversation. You had missed it. Everybody else who was interested had already seen it. And it was a second event because all the cheap people who hadn't prioritized it high enough finally got to see it when they hit the video. Then they tried to have their own little conversation. And by abandoning that, and they shrunk it when DVD sales became really profitable. In the early 2000s is when they moved with, like, I think Spider-Man and some other movies in that era. They came out on DVD to buy within 4 months. And the movie theaters at that time told them, like, if you go less than this 4 months, you're going to permanently damage the movie theater business model. And they did. They didn't care.
Yeah, perfect example. If we were living in that era that we're talking about from the 90s, I would have made it a point to go see Obsession, Backrooms, and He-Man, Masters of the Universe. I would have went to go see all three of those films. But knowing that I only have to wait a month or two, I'm going to wait.
Yeah. I'll do another one. Because you can watch a movie anytime on streaming, you don't have to watch it ever, right? So, I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in 1979. So I don't have to tell people. You should just know, because I told you what my birthday is, that I love Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America. You should just know that. Like that's automatic. If you're born when I was born and say you don't love those movies, you're just lying. You know what I'm saying?
The Golden Child. The Golden Child.
I'll tell you this. To
I
this day,
want the knife.
Please. But to this day, I have still not seen Axel F or Coming to America. I have not seen those sequels because they were released to streaming, and I want to see them, but I can do it anytime, so I don't have to do it. If they had came out in theaters, both of those movies, I would have bought a ticket opening weekend, been there with my whole family, would have made my whole family commence a Beverly Hills Cop 1 through 3 rewatch before opening weekend, and then we would have been there opening weekend to watch it. We would have watched Coming to America on Friday or Thursday, and we would have been there that weekend to watch Coming to America, the sequel. I still haven't seen either one. Coming to.
Yeah, Coming to America.
Yeah. It's just.
I think you're hitting on something completely different, Dan, than anything else we've talked about, and we've got plenty of comments I know we need to get to. But the thing that I think is really interesting is we've been talking about superhero movies a lot. We've been talking about sci-fi. We've been talking about Star Wars and Indiana Jones. What we haven't talked about is just your standard 1980s, 1990s action movie. The Independence Day or the Independence Day, The Rock,
Die Hard,
Die Hard, Con Air, right? I mean, Iron Eagle, that kind of stuff. We just haven't seen anything like that that's actually caught fire with an audience where people say, I have to go see that in theaters. Jason Statham makes an attempt at that every now and then. I think he's got one coming out soon, but for the most part, we've just kind of moved past your standard 80s, 90s action movie. People
they all
don't
go straight to
that on the big screen anymore. Yeah. People don't
they all go straight to streaming
in the theater anymore.
The studios don't even try, right? Jason, I think that's what you're going to say. The studios don't even try.
Yeah, that's when they do, I think they have a little bit of success. The last one I can think of was Violent Night. Violent Night made a decent amount of money, and it had a lot of good press. They're getting a sequel this year, so
that's great.
I mean,
what I love that movie.
See.
Same thing with comedy as well. You don't see any true comedy films anymore. It's we're just mixing everything together in a blender.
Everything's a comedy now, right? Yeah. Everything's a comedy.
It's insane. The last one that I think, and that made money.
Well, yeah, and any kind of a pure comedy movie, like an old school, this movie is a comedy, that's also direct to streaming. And again, they're wrecking all of these genres because aside from an intimate drama, like a little character piece, right? Horror movies, action movies, comedy movies, these are all way better as a communal experience. You know, they're way better in a packed theater with other people there. A comedy is so much funnier if you're in a packed house with other people laughing. You know, I mean, it's contagious and it works better, but they don't even put comedies in theaters anymore.
I never will forget opening weekend, the first Hangover movie in theaters.
Oh yeah.
It was gut bustingly funny and so shocking, you know?
Yeah. And it was so funny that you laughed so hard and the audience laughed so hard that you had to have repeat viewings. You had to go back because you knew you missed half the jokes. Yep. You know, you either had to go back or get it as soon as it came out on DVD because you knew you missed half of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm really curious when y'all guys do watch Obsession and Backrooms. I'm wondering if it will not
Obsession
be
and Backrooms again.
Oh, it might not be as good at home. Yeah, that's the horror is scarier.
Experience.
Yeah,
I had
when you hear other people jump.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, it was fun.
Jason loves to make the point that he went to see No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home in theaters, and it was a great experience. But then when he watched it again at home, there's like pause for applause. Stop for applause.
Part of the reason. That's part of the reason that I just don't like to rewatch the movies at home. To be completely honest, it's not even the same effect. It's just not. So
yeah. Like I've never watched Endgame again at home all the way through because like really I'm not gonna have a whole theater of people gasp when Captain America gets Thor's hammer. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna recapture that moment at home. You know, it's just me.
I talk about this moment. I talk about this moment all the time. Okay, and it was a terrible movie. I didn't care for the movie. Okay, but in Star Wars Episode 2. When Yoda takes out the lightsaber, there was a standing ovation in a packed theater. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was a terrible movie. It was a CGI Yoda that looked like a cartoon. It was not a very good, you know, cinematic experience, but the actual theater experience was unmatchable. Okay. You just, It was one of those moments that I'll never forget. I have never to this day seen a standing ovation in the middle of a movie ever again. And that was just one of those things. I mean, you know, you don't get that anymore. I know they had this whole thing going on with the chicken jockey stuff. I know they had all that. Okay. All right. Yeah. That was manufactured. This was organic. Okay.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Same thing with Superman 2006 with Brandon Routh. Really not a good movie, honestly. But when he saved that airplane and the plane landed safely in the stadium, all of us stood up and started clapping. I mean, it was just different. It's hard to describe to this young generation. Like
that was my bachelor party, Jonathan. Yeah. You're bringing back bad memories. That was my bachelor party, opening day of that movie. Okay.
Well, if you want a worse memory. If you want a worse memory, Tim, remember we waited for like you. I know you did it too. You go to a midnight showing of Phantom Menace Episode 1, right? And a long time ago, actually, not even that. Before a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, just the 20th Century Fox logo comes on, and you get the drum roll.
Everyone goes
and the
insane.
The whole theater just goes nuts. You know, it was like Skinner just launched into Freebird, is what you know what I'm saying?
It was.
The whole everything.
That's the thing that you'll never get to experience again because these theaters aren't even packed, right? They're not even packed for the movies they should be packed for in order for that to happen. It's just crazy. Yeah. There were several moments like that. In Masters of the Universe, right? When he did the final I have the power and Skeletor said, "Oh, balls," that would have been an amazing moment where everybody just went nuts, right? But there's 12 people in the theater. We're all like, "Oh, that's kind of funny." You know what I mean? That was it. And it's like you were watching it at home on a bigger screen. That's all it was. So it was.
I will do one thing where fans can end up being to blame is now that the studios have painted themselves into this corner, right? With this 30, 45-day ridiculous 2-week theatrical period, right? If the studios try to claw that back, if they even try to go back to the 90 days, I think fandom will scream bloody murder. They will cry. It will be all over YouTube and Reddit and X. I don't, Jonathan, do you think they could claw it back, or do you think the fans will just like riot, or do you think they would understand?
There would definitely be pushback, but that would fade away. You know, over time, it would disappear. So I say do it. I say minimum 90, but if we can somehow crazily get back to that 6 month at least, that would be even better. But
that would
90 is a minimum. I mean, we really need to get back to 90.
Yeah. At the least, because here's the thing, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I am deeply committed to the idea that there's no real money in streaming. I just Netflix made a bunch of money being the first mover. Yeah, it's a Ponzi scheme. Yeah,
that's why they're all doing advertising now. Right?
Yeah.
They're all doing advertising now because they're not making any money doing it.
And if you notice on your email, every single month, the plan price goes up every single month. Oh, Netflix, the premium Netflix now is like $30 a month. Yeah. Insane.
So it's just, they're not making any money. So they're not going to be able to afford to keep making this content if the theaters aren't there. They're going to go 100% to live events like sports, award shows, concerts,
old movies
and reality shows. The only thing new that will be made is like reality competitions. Is this a cake? You know, we put these 8 people in a house, an apartment, a submarine. You know, you're gonna get kicked out of you're gonna get launched out of a submarine torpedo tube or something if you're voted out of the submarine. You know, it's gonna be so we've got to save theaters somehow. I might have skipped one.
Yeah, we did.
Somebody mentioned GTA 6 earlier, just real quick, throwing that out there.
Yeah.
I think all gamers are very excited about that. Even people that aren't really like hardcore gamers. I mean, everybody knows what Grand Theft Auto is, right?
Yeah.
That game is probably going to be mind-bogglingly, crazily like realistic. You know, there's all kinds of memes out there. Like, I can't wait to drive through my first crowd of people, things like that. I mean, I think all of us are stoked about that. That's going to be awesome.
I wish I was a gamer because I think there's still money in gaming.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. Even if they're in a creative lull in the gaming industry, like Name was saying, right? There's so much money there that if they pull their heads out of their rectums and start making good content and writing good stories, they'll get their revenue streams back up because people still do it. The problem with movies is that you've taught everybody to sit at home. It's going to be hard to reclaim your revenue stream. It's much harder to right the ship, I think, for movies. But gaming, I do see. And actually, I hope gaming has a big, bright future because that might be the only thing that gets people back into theaters.
That's going to be the new source material. That's going to be the new source material for cinema.
It already is.
Honestly, that's you want to get butts in the seats. For us, it was all of the properties from when we were kids. The properties from when the next generation are kids are all video game properties. And we're already seeing that with Super Mario Brothers and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Minecraft.
Absolutely. Yeah. Minecraft. Yeah.
The movie starring Dan.
Yeah.
I am Steve.
So, I mean, like a GTA movie would probably, I mean, do we think a GTA movie would make $1 billion right now?
Probably, but you would have to have lightning in a bottle. You would have to have the right cast, the right writer, the right script. It would have to be perfect. And I right now, my confidence level in Hollywood, do I think they could pull it off? No, I don't. I don't think that they could pull off something that would be intriguing with a good story that could match the quality level of the games.
I think that's the big problem is, could they do something different enough from, you know, Fast and the Furious and all that other stuff? That's kind of going to be the problem. You know, with the problem with a lot of these video game properties is that a lot of their genres have already been hashed out in cinema. So when they re-release them, you know, when we get a Tomb Raider movie, well, we've already seen Tomb Raider, he was a man and his name was Indiana Jones. So that's kind of the main problem that you have when you start doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be the next wave of source material that will try to get butts in the seats for the next generation. There's no doubt about it.
John Snow Knows Nothing said it's frustrating knowing that it can be done post-COVID. See Deadpool and Wolverine for reference. So big hits can be made, but what can we like? What does that indicate? Tim, you look like you have a response.
That was the ultimate like exception, I think. Okay. I think that you had Hugh Jackman when we know this was likely going to be the last time that he does Wolverine, because he's like
90.
He's like 100.
Yeah, but
he's like 100.
To counter argue that real quick.
So
to counter argue that real quick, The Flash also had Michael Keaton, so I don't think that's a good excuse.
I know. But
there was more.
It's likely going to be the last time that Hugh Jackman was there. We all know that Ryan Reynolds had full creative control. I think that's something that really got people in the seats. If Disney had tried to meddle too much, Ryan Reynolds wouldn't have done the project, and that's what people knew. I think that's a big part of it. And so I think that, there was a lot of that kind of compiled with the idea that this was going to be kind of a big merging of the Fox properties and kind of how they get into the Disney properties. It was a big deal. And I think it was kind of the ultimate exception, not to mention it was kind of a parody of an MCU film, not really an MCU film. So I think people really liked that it didn't matter. I think that that's something they can go see something that's fun, starring people they like, that doesn't really matter, that they don't have to do a ton of homework for. And I think that that's something that kind of got people in the theaters. They all enjoyed it, but it broke all the rules, man. It was an R-rated film, and it had gratuitous violence. It had terrible language. It's not anything you want to take your kids to see, and it made $1 billion. So, I mean, it can be done, but it's just the ultimate exception to me.
Yeah, I
What do you
think
think?
there were three things. I think it had fantastic goodwill because both of the Deadpool movies are good. I think they were smart with how they marketed it. When they dropped that image of Deadpool and Wolverine in the desert with the 20th Century Fox logo broken, like that was the best marketing they could have done, because that got everybody's attention. And I mean, like you said, it was Ryan Reynolds, and they knew it wasn't going to be the same slop that they've been getting before. So, a lightning in a bottle situation, I think, with Deadpool and Wolverine.
What were you going to say, Jonathan?
I don't think that average moviegoers knew that. I mean, the mainstream audience did not know, oh, Ryan Reynolds wrote this. Okay, well, then that changes my tune. And also with the point about Hugh Jackman coming back, same thing when you look at The Flash. Michael Keaton was coming back. Since 1989, Michael Keaton's coming back. I can remember I was on a random construction job site back in like 2015. And one of my coworkers, hilarious guy, he said something that was so just it did not register with us. Like we thought it was so wild and crazy that it would never happen, but it actually did. He said, what would be refreshing if Michael Keaton came back and played Batman? And I remember me and my buddy looked at each other and just busted out laughing because we thought that was impossible at the time. Like, that'll never happen. So I disagree with Tim wholeheartedly. The same thing with the $1 billion R-rated exception. Look at the Joker a couple years before that. Joker made $1 billion. It was rated R. Not only was it gratuitously violent, but it was an incredibly dark tale. Did I like the movie? No, but that doesn't matter. It made $1 billion. So I totally disagree. I think when the stars align and when you present, it's all about your marketing. It's also about the writing and word of mouth as well. If word of mouth gets out and people don't like it, there's a lot of different factors like Dan mentioned earlier. You can never just blame one thing, but all the points Tim just made, I totally disagree with.
Oh, I can.
Well, that's funny, Jonathan, because you kind of agreed with a lot of what I said. I think we're agreeing more than we're disagreeing here, and that's that. Regardless of what the stars are that lined up, they did line up, and I think that we can point to a lot of things of that movie and say,
maybe we can't quite put a finger on it.
It really shouldn't have. Okay, it really shouldn't have if you take a look at the movie, right? But why did it? And I think that it's frustrating, but it's also not something that's going to be easily replicated. I don't think anybody can just go out there and do a gratuitously violent R-rated superhero movie and expect it to make $1 billion. You know what I mean? I think this was just kind of everything lining up perfectly. I think that you and I are in agreement on that more than we disagree. So anyway,
I would say
I can tell you where the Flash messed up. I know the exact point. So I had this, like.
Well, that was Ezra Miller being a moron right before the movie came out too. That was the thing.
People also know who.
There was no Ezra Miller in Deadpool.
Yeah.
Ryan.
But here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. I think that movements have momentum. They pick up momentum. It's like a snowball rolling downhill. And the decline of cinema attendance, it doesn't go like in a straight, even line. You know what I'm saying? But it is picking up momentum as we go. So, like I said, the last time that any kind of action film, again, we're using the broadest definition, performed to expectations or exceeded them, right? That was specifically what I was looking for. So like, Dead Reckoning makes $600 million, right? But that's not a success because Maverick had made $1 billion and Dead Reckoning had production delays and cost over $300 million to make. So Mission Impossible is going on a slide down, right? But the level of success I was looking for was it did as much or more than anticipated at the box office. And the last time that happened was Deadpool and Wolverine and Bad Boys 2. Two things they both have in common. They were 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So again, I know like it wasn't all just COVID happened and then it broke, right?
3 years ago, Dan.
3. Okay. So it was 3 years ago. So COVID happened and it started to break.
Maybe it was 2.
Yeah. Okay.
2 or 3. So 2 or 3.
Yeah.
6,
it was
7,
a while back.
2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, COVID happened and it started to break, but I'm saying that it's still accelerating. You know what I'm saying? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, some of the movies that are falling on their face this year may have actually made money. You know what I'm saying? You may have had a hit Masters of the Universe 2 years ago because this all picks up momentum. And the other thing that Deadpool and Wolverine and Bad Boys 2 have in common is that they have a heavy mix of comedy, not just a little dose of comedy, but a big dose of comedy, which people don't get to see in theaters unless it's in the form of a big action movie that has a lot of comedy. So I think that does help them get over the finish line. I don't know that would do it again today. I know it helped in 2024. I don't know if it'll help in 26 or 27. While we're here, I will say that I was looking at the barometer of is there hope? I was thinking Spider-Man might tell us if there's hope. But now I'm feeling like
I said that in the group chat. I think it's true.
Yeah. But now I'm thinking though, Spider-Man can only be a negative indicator because if it fails, we know we're done. I mean, if Spider-Man can't make a bunch of money, nothing can make a bunch of money, right? But if Spider-Man does make a bunch of money, does that tell you anything about wider properties? You know what I'm saying? Not everything can have Spider-Man in it. Well,
I think it definitely will tell us a lot about the superhero genre. And you're right, Dan. I mean, at the end of the day, if Spider-Man comes out and does not touch 700-800 mil,
I say 8. Yeah.
Yeah. If it comes out and hits 500, maxes out at 500 or 600, that's a panic alarm for Disney, and not just Disney, but even Warner Brothers and any
Superhero
studio
genre.
any studio that's going to put out a superhero movie is panicking big time because
Yeah.
that's that's a part of your holy trinity of most popular movie superheroes, or superheroes in general. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. That's it. That's the three.
Yeah.
That's the holy trinity of most popular superhero characters.
Yeah.
And Superman already only made 600-700 mil. Some people call that a disappointment. Some people don't think, maybe. So we'll see. I mean, I don't have high hopes for Supergirl because it's a derivative character. But I definitely don't think it's going to match Superman. And honestly, like early tracking is not looking good for that.
But like, if Spider-Man fails, it's wider than just superheroes. Like, if Spider-Man fails, do you want, if you're running a studio and Spider-Man's failed, do you want to spend $200 million on a James Bond movie? You know, because if Spider-Man can't sell tickets, James Bond can't sell tickets. Let's kid each other. You know.
I will say,
and Dan, who owns James Bond? Okay,
Amazon.
owns James Bond.
Amazon.
The same people that just completely flopped with Masters of the Universe, right? I mean,
but also the same people that spent hundreds of millions on Lord of the Rings as well. So we'll see how that goes. But
almost $1 billion.
To connect our video game discussion with James Bond, they just released a James Bond video game. So maybe in the youth that will reignite that excitement.
That's the idea.
I've been playing that game myself, and it's an original James Bond actor, a whole original story with new cast of characters. Believe it or not, he's white and straight. I couldn't believe that myself. But it maybe that will edge James Bond, but you just never know these days. Honestly, I think that it's going to be a combination of new IP and what the newer, younger generation is interested in, because apparently what we like and love, it's not enough anymore. It needs to be something that reaches the masses.
That was one thing I was considering, and I was spitballing in my head, like maybe they should have made a Masters of the Universe video game before they tried to make a movie, so that like this younger generation would know and appreciate the IP, because like a movie is not the place to relaunch IP anymore.
Well, and Dan, before they released the last Indiana Jones movie, didn't they do that? They released an Indiana.
I think
Jones
they did do an Indiana Jones
game shortly before that, and now it didn't help. Okay, because I don't know about the quality of the game. I'm not a gamer.
It was exclusively on Xbox.
It obviously didn't help, and then of course we still have Kathleen Kennedy in charge of Lucasfilm, so that's a whole other ball of wax. But I do believe that there is something to making these kids fall in love with these old IPs through whatever means they are using right now, and they're just using video games. So if you want to reignite their love of superheroes or action heroes or any of that stuff, I feel like that's the avenue in order to get that generation involved. For sure.
Whatever these kids are using, Tim, whatever they're using.
I feel but Marvel.
Here's the thing, there's a lot of different avenues that people are using. It's not just video games, but video games and all kinds of other things. I feel like mobile device.
Well, like I think Marvel Rivals might be generating more hype for those characters than the movies now.
Potentially. I don't know if that game is quite as on fire as it was a year ago, but it was definitely pretty big when it first hit the scene about a year or two ago. I tried playing it. I didn't love it as much. It was kind of an Overwatch copy. Overwatch came out in 2016 for the people that don't know much about games. And it kind of took the world by storm for a couple of years. It was very popular for several years, really. I mean, I played it myself for like 6-7 years, but 6-7, there it is again. I think it's just the perfect storm. It's not just video games, but video games do have a large part these days in pop culture, like you guys keep talking about. But it just takes the perfect storm. And I, call me overly optimistic. I want to say that Spider-Man's going to hit that 850 mark, maybe even 900 mil. And then after that, Doomsday is going to come out. And I hope it at least hits 1.5.
Yeah,
that's probably a stretch.
My guess is exactly right there, Jonathan. I think you hit it. I think if Spider-Man is within reasonable striking distance of $1 billion, then I think that we are looking at Doomsday surpassing $1 billion.
Okay.
So it needs to make more than 800. There's no doubt in my mind. That's the litmus test. If it makes under 800, I think that everybody will be looking at each other like, oh, like, what are we going to do? Because that's it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to throw this out there because I threw it in the group chat and nobody jumped on it. So to the chat and to the future comments and to you guys right now, I was shocked when I found this out. I still don't really believe it, but the number one contender in the predictive markets right now, which if you guys don't know, predictive markets are a legalese way to have legal gambling all throughout the nation because you're doing one-on-one betting instead of betting against the house. So it's basically a sports book that we don't call a sports book. But the other thing is they bet on everything that you could imagine. So of course they're betting on the what is going to be the number one film at the box office this year. And right now in the predictive markets, the odds on favorite to be the number one is Spider-Man. It's Brand New Day. Brand New Day is favored above Doomsday to be the number one film. Now, I don't think either one of those.
I would have thought Toy Story 5. I would have thought
my money's on Toy Story 5.
By a mile, I would have thought Toy Story 5.
But what I want to ask is, despite the fact that we are all going to say Toy Story 5 is going to win and these people are crazy, can Spider-Man beat the Avengers? Can Spider-Man solo the Avengers?
I don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening. But crazier things have happened.
Jason, do you think Spider-Man can solo the Avengers?
Ooh, it's going to be tough. I will say, me personally, I'm more excited for Spider-Man than I am the Avengers. I mean, at least that story, like, all the characters that they're bringing back, I pretty much saw the end of their story, and now we're going past the end of their story. Like, Spider-Man, I at least didn't know the end of the story. But, I mean, I'm not really hyped for any of it, unfortunately, right now.
Yeah. Hey,
this is the number one of the end, Jason.
I would say, Dan, I would say the main reason why you're seeing that right now, it's kind of like when you're at the racetrack and you're betting and you know, right before a horse hits the gate, it takes a pee, and then it, that's like kind of what we're seeing now, because the trailer for Spider-Man, we're 2 trailers in. The only thing that we've got from Doomsday or teasers, I think you're going to see the betting favor Doomsday as we get closer to Doomsday's release. That's going to be my take on it.
Okay. So I just want to throw that out there.
I had no Jurassic Park movie coming out this year.
Yeah. No, I'm done. Hey,
we're done. We're done with that genre. We're done with it.
I saw a trailer. I saw a trailer because I made this point last year, and I said Universal Pictures may own the rights to Jurassic Park, right? They don't own the rights to dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are everywhere. And I just saw a trailer on television because I'm sick as a dog. I haven't been in a theater. But anyway, it's something about the house or at the end of some street. Is the name of the movie. What's that?
I think it's a Cloverfield movie. The house at the end of Oak Street.
Yeah, the house, and actually it shows dinosaurs, multiple different dinosaurs attacking people in their home. So it's a horror movie about dinosaurs. And actually, I'm here for it. The last Jurassic Park had me furious. I couldn't believe I paid money and bought a dinosaur head popcorn bucket to sit and get the Luigi Mangione story with dinosaurs in it.
At midnight, and we went to see that stupid movie at midnight. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Let's get to these comments.
That Jurassic Park movie will make money. It will
Yes.
inexplicably be the biggest movie of the year that year that it comes
Yeah,
out.
it'll be awful, and everybody will go see it.
Yep. More slop.
I just think the days of nerds flocking to a theater and dressing like Darth Vader are over. Everyone has an 80+ inch screen in their home, and every movie is available on streaming within 90 days. So a lot of that we talked get it in 90 days, but the 80+ inch screen does not replace the collective experience.
But that's the thing, Dan. These people don't know what the experience even is. To them, the movie is the experience, and that's not the case. You know what I mean? Like these are the people who never saw a Back to the Future movie on the big screen. You know, they've only ever seen it on a screen that's 80 inches or smaller, and so they think that's the experience. That's not the experience. Okay, you know.
Also,
it's the people.
It's when Biff crashes into the manure, and then we all laugh in the theater because it's hilarious every time. That is the experience.
Also, people in general these days, I even find myself being a little more antisocial than I was 5-10 years ago. But people in general these days, it's like we've grown further and further apart as a people. We don't talk to each other as much. We don't smile and wave. We just don't have that much social interaction anymore. COVID kind of started us along that path. DoorDash, Amazon. There's just not that much social interaction. And I think this younger generation is a lot more comfortable with it than we were or are.
So, folks, if you came for the group therapy session, right, and you thought we were going to make you feel better, at this point, just realize that we're bringing your misery some company. And that's the therapy we're providing. You know, if you brought your misery here to us, we're going to accompany it. What's that, Jason?
I said, I have hope. The movies that I like, I guarantee you there will be more movies like that. Because I guarantee you the studio saw the success that just happened these last few months.
I hope he's right. I really do. I keep staying positive, Jason, because I just want to if the only thing
you're not going to convince me to see it, Jason. Stop trying. You're not going to convince me.
I will go because I love going to the movies. I grew up in an era when like it got to the weekend and you're like, what do you want to do? And people were like, oh, let's go see a movie. Let's go see X.
And it was like always this. It was always the new blank, right? It's like, oh, the new
you didn't even know what was showing,
out, or oh, the new this, you know, the new Adam Sandler movie's out, or the new, you know, that's all you would do.
Like you decided you wanted to see a movie, so you got the paper, this ancient relic that would come to your door and have movie listings on it, or you would pick up your landline and call movie phone.
And then you'd be waiting for a specific movie for them to list the time. And then you'd start talking to somebody or get distracted. And damn it, I missed it. I got to call them back.
The whole list again. Oh, the kids don't know.
They don't.
You know? All right, let's get on to the next comment here. What is the biggest misstep from a studio perspective? Timing, meddling. I think we all landed on the window, right? I mean, I think the window is definitely
the window is it. I think that it's not just the release window of streaming. I think that's a big part of it. Another thing with the timing that I just can't stand is like I brought up Superman from last year. It still just bugs the snot out of me. They were staring for years at the date that they wanted to release, and they chose the weekend after the 4th of July weekend. It made no sense. All right. So Universal, 2 years after they announced Superman, decided that they're going to go ahead and move in on 4th of July weekend with Jurassic World. And they surpassed the revenue by like $200 million. They left $200 million on the table because they didn't release on 4th of July weekend. It's just silly. You know what I mean?
Now,
like Superman, truth, justice, and what, Dan? Truth, justice, and
the
what?
American way.
On the 4th of freaking July.
Not the American way anymore. Not according to James Gunn.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Now, whether you like the James Gunn Superman or not, if you're going to try to sell me on the idea that this latest Jurassic World movie was better, we'll fight.
Nope.
Find me in the comments. I will explain to you why you're wrong.
$200 million more just because of the release date. You know,
No,
you want to know what
Snickers wrapper.
What could Superman have done? A better movie. What could they have done if they chose to release that weekend? It
on a
just
holiday
blows my
weekend.
mind.
It's a holiday
on a
weekend.
holiday
It's
weekend,
just built in.
And it was like a 4-day weekend too. You know what I mean? So it was silly, man. It was silly.
Okay, Jason, what were you trying to say?
Go ahead.
There's another problem that we haven't really touched on. And look, I like Superman. But I will go ahead and tell you, I can't tell you what Lex Luthor's plan was. I can't tell you what the bad guy's plan was in Thunderbolts.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you what Galactus's plan really was. Like, all these stories are just slop now.
And here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. And Dan and I talked about this at length with Skeletor last week. Sometimes villains have to be evil just for the sake of being evil. I still think that their evilness needs to make sense. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, they need to be evil. Okay. And no, we don't need to have them be sympathetic. You know, I told Dan I'm so glad that we didn't get to see like baby Skeletor getting abused or something. And that's what, and I'm really glad we didn't see a sympathetic storyline for Skeletor, but he was evil, but his evilness made sense. He had this maniacal obsession with being the most powerful thing in the universe.
Yeah.
And
he had a plan.
This sword made him, the existence of this sword meant that he was not the most powerful thing in the universe as long as it was out there. Right. And that's the story. That's your story right there. Okay. Lex Luthor, I agree with you, Jason, to a degree. I think that evil for the sake of evil is a good idea, but hating Superman because he hates Superman is not enough. Why does he hate Superman?
Yeah, they didn't really do a good job
of explaining They never went into that really.
And that's the problem with Superman. Like it felt like in a lot of ways we were kind of dumped into part 2 without seeing part 1, even though it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't, because audiences are also tired of origin stories. And we've seen the origin for Superman 1,000 times. So I'm not saying Superman was still an enjoyable film. But you know, just like a lot of movies, it had its flaws. And I think Marvel,
it was a risk.
Yeah, it was a risk. Sure. And Marvel has had villain issues for decades now, you know, in the MCU. I do disagree with Jason though, in regards to Thunderbolts. I think that it was beyond a villain or a big bad guy at the end. It was kind of a more like introspective, like the villain is myself, you know, and this is a way to look at depression and different things like that. So I liked the message in Thunderbolts. I think it was a good story that didn't get political. And at the end of the day, it's a problem that a lot of people deal with. So,
once again,
I think Tim will join in that.
Sorry.
Yeah. Tim will join in that Val didn't have a plan because Tim can't stand Val because, of course, Julia Louis-Dreyfus made him laugh one time, and she's not allowed to play serious characters anymore.
Right? No, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is allowed to be Elaine, and she's allowed to be Margot, and that is it. Okay, for all of eternity, she is doomed to be Elaine and Margot. Okay, and that's it. That's all.
Why is the floor all wet, Todd?
Legitimately, yeah, there you go. Legitimately, I didn't know her name was Val. I can't tell you a single thing that happened in Thunderbolts.
Her name is actually Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, Jason.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, here's a question since we're just talking about Spider-Man. Why is Hulk Bruce Banner again? When the Hulk last time we saw Hulk,
he had the little wrist. Didn't you see the new?
Okay,
he's got the modifier that helps him keep it under control.
Yeah, he developed that conveniently before She-Hulk started. He already had it developed.
See, we had to get beyond the point where he didn't turn to Bruce anymore, so that they could get in a car accident in She-Hulk and do a blood transfusion. Yeah. So, and we all remember She-Hulk so well that we know exactly what justification they gave for why he did it. No, we don't.
We don't remember.
If we're going to talk about She-Hulk, I'm just going to go walk off a bridge right now. That's okay.
I can't tell you anything. And really, I don't know Dr. Doom's plan. I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, sure. We're not going to have that buildup that we had before because they pulled the plug last minute with Kang. But that can be remedied. It can be remedied. We'll wait and see how they start the film off. It could be really, really good, and it could be really, really bad. We'll see.
Flash 8 fan says the standard media tours did not generate the same level of excitement as they used to. Nobody watches Good Morning America anymore. Well, I'll go. The Tonight Show and Late Night, like they don't even. I mean, I guess Jimmy.
Who's the host? Name the host right now. Name them.
Jimmy Fallon, I think. Jimmy Fallon's still hanging in there.
All the Jimmys.
I think Seth Meyers does one. I don't know.
Fallon.
I don't know.
Hey, is Conan O'Brien still around?
No,
I think he's still on TBS. I think he's on TBS still. I think.
I don't know if he is or not.
I think he just does a podcast now.
Oh, okay.
But you know what?
Here's the thing:
Jonathan,
we can't conclusively state, so that tells you something.
I'm glad that Jonathan brought that up because I think that's where these guys are missing. I think the media tours for these things need to go to the podcast world.
Yeah, but
that's where they need to go.
I have my doubts about that.
Look, the thing about it, and hear me out on this, okay? Hear me out on this. You got a guy like Nerdrotic that has millions of viewers, right? Yeah. Nerdrotic has millions of viewers, and he reams into every project possible. He is just your standard hate watcher. If a studio offers him a stupid amount of money to have somebody on the show to interview them in a friendly interview to kind of bolster things, you don't think he'd do it? Absolutely, he would do it. The only reason he reams into everybody, and yes, it's because these properties have kind of gone down the drain, but the only reason he does is because there is an audience for that, and people love it. If somebody pays him to do the opposite and help bolster these movies, I think he'd do it. I think a lot of these podcasters would do it, and I think that's where I think the podcast world is where they need to go for promotion.
I don't think the question,
these kind of people.
I don't think the question would be, would Nerdrotic do it? He probably would, maybe, who knows? But I think the question would be, would these movie studios do it? With all the crap that he's talked about, Disney, every other movie studio, I don't think they would put him on his show.
Whatever gets butts in the seats, man. That's all they got to worry about.
Back to your point, I'll let Dan talk because I know he's chomping at the bit. But
go ahead.
Joe Rogan, the most popular podcast in the world right now. Okay,
absolutely.
Did that help Theo Von's movie with David Spade?
Theo Von is not what we're talking about here, though. You know,
that's what he did. He did his promotion on Joe Rogan's
We're not talking
podcast.
about Theo Von's movie. We're talking about Blockbuster movies. Okay,
but
what?
Still,
Six people saw Theo Von's movie.
Ben Affleck did it recently for R.I.P.D. or whatever it was called on Netflix.
Nobody knows what the movie's called. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the movies that we know.
Damon came on too, didn't he? Yeah, Damon was on.
Yes.
Joe Rogan also to try to promote. But here's the other thing. That movie they were promoting was a streaming movie. And I don't think people actually watch streaming movies. They don't watch
not the Theo Von movie. And that was a big push and attempt to create a modern day in theatrical exclusive comedy film. And it was a massive flop. So that obviously didn't. And people love Theo Von's podcast too. That's the thing. So him and David Spade pairing up, you would think, oh, he's promoting it on his podcast and Joe Rogan's podcast. I don't know that would be enough, is what I'm trying to say. Like even Nerdrotic is not as popular as Joe.
I think you're talking about a movie that was never going to make a lot of money anyway. Like I'm talking about movies that actually have potential. Let's try it. You know, they got it. What's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean?
Here's the thing.
What's the worst that can happen?
Let me get this. At the risk of taking pot shots at the people that sit at the very top of our niche. You know what I'm saying? We've got a little niche here, and there's a guy who sits all the way at the top of it, and it's Nerdrotic.
We're
you know what I'm saying? Like
down.
so. Yeah. So at the risk of angering his fans, which you know what, maybe it would be good if we anger his fans. We'll get some attention.
I don't know. Yeah.
The whole brand. Not that I don't enjoy it, because I hate a lot of things. so the whole brand is hating everything. They hate everything. Again, we're talking about Masters of the Universe and how much we loved it, right? And how that really made us rethink everything. They hated Masters of the Universe.
Oh yeah, you would have thought it was that Britney Spears movie if you listen.
Yeah, they honestly, it wasn't serious enough. And it's like, do you not know what He-Man is? Did you think you were buying a ticket to a Conan movie? It's He-Man. You know what I'm saying? So no, it's not going to be super serious. But the whole brand of Nerdrotic is hating everything. So would he take money to do a favorable interview or review? I don't know, because that would be becoming a shill.
Yeah, he'd lose
if
his
he
audience.
did. Yeah, that's the thing. If he did take the money, would the audience go with him? Absolutely not. I think he would just alienate his whole core audience that loves him hating everything. So if he tried to come out and pump a big project from his studio, I think he would just lose his audience. They wouldn't gain anything, and he would lose everything, is what I think would happen. What were you going to say, Jason?
I tend to kind of agree with Jonathan. I'm a mixture. I think Joe Rogan and that vein is the way to go. And I will give you an example. The year is 1997. I am watching daytime television with my mom because it's the summer. And Oprah Winfrey has the Batman and Robin special.
Yeah,
where the whole cast is on there. And my mom was like, that might be pretty good. So you've got... That's where you need to hit. You need to hit moms.
and that's it, man.
And mom was wrong again.
There was never... Here's the thing. That we had, in years past, we've had the Ellen DeGeneres show. We've had the Rosie O'Donnell show. We've had Oprah. We've had a lot of daytime talk shows where... the Rachel Ray show, a lot of these daytime talk shows where celebrities could come in and pump up their stuff, and all the wine moms who have all their kids in school and just got out of yoga class could sit down while they were making their salad and watch what movie is coming out and what celebrity is talking about it. That doesn't really exist anymore. I guess there's the Drew Barrymore show, but nobody really watches that. So, Right now, if you want to be in front of people during the day, it's the podcast world. That's where people look. People look to the podcast world, and that's where you've got to be. In my mind, that's the niche that they're missing, and you kind of nailed the time frame, Jason. That's exactly the point.
If you're gonna do podcasts, if you're gonna try Joe Rogan, you're gonna have to shift from actors doing press to writers and directors, because actors aren't most. Now, I know some actors have been on Joe Rogan, but most actors are not smart enough to speak extemporaneously about anything that comes up for 3 hours. They don't have the mental bandwidth to do it. If Kamala Harris is afraid to do it, and it can't be trusted to spend 3 hours talking to Joe Rogan about whatever. Now, I don't have a high opinion of her mental faculties, to be honest, but I will say she probably is at least as smart or smarter than your average Hollywood actress or actor. You know what I'm saying? And if her team is afraid to let her talk to Joe about whatever comes up for 3 hours, you definitely can't let your average Hollywood, actors just read lines that other people wrote.
Yes, Joe Rogan's going to call you out.
And
I'm sorry.
There are a lot of people who have gone on Joe Rogan's show that are actors and actresses. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. has been on there before.
Smart ones.
Sheen has been on there before. A lot of people, but the one thing I'll say is that they weren't doing anything promotional in order to be on there. They were just on his show, just talking about nonsense. They were just like, what's your favorite color? And do you like Thai food? It's that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's not, tell me about this project. Tell me about how you got the role. tell me about, tell me, how did you get along with the director? How did, 3 hours of that would be different. I agree with you. I also think 3 hours of that could be supremely beneficial to the studio cause. It really could be, but it would have to land right. It would have to land right. There's no doubt.
Yeah, because Joe Rogan's going to call you out on your BS immediately. Like if there's something that you say that is, sorry for lack of a better term, retarded, he's going to call you out on that instantaneously, and then he's going to have Jamie look it up on the computer, and he's going to be like, "No, you're wrong about that. Actually, look right here. This source, this source, this." So yeah, totally agree.
And then 3 weeks later, he's going to have Shane Gillis on his podcast to make fun of you some more.
Yeah.
So it's just gonna that's a dangerous zone. Like when you went on Letterman, you only had to talk for like 3 or 4 minutes, and there was a pre-interview where they found the funny story that happened to you, and they said, "Okay, that's the story we're gonna run with when you come out," and everything was scripted and ready. You can't do that for 3 hours. You could do it for 3 minutes, but
you were out.
Yeah, you just came out, you told your one story, and you said, "Oh, the movie's going to be great. Let's roll the clip," and you were done. The genre itself is just not what people love to spend money on anymore. If people are going to pay upwards of $150 for tickets, snacks, and merch, they might as well see something everyone likes. So, I mean, that's the thing, though. What does everybody like? If it's not an action spectacle that motivates you to drag your whole family out of the house, I don't know what is. What you know what I'm saying? I don't think. I think that's the best shot.
What really kills me, Dan? Do you remember back in the 80s, 90s, whenever we would see a trailer for a movie on TV and we would be like, I can't wait to see that on the big screen. When Earthquake came out, or when Volcano came out, or when all of these, it was just like, we thought, seeing that on the big screen is going to be incredible. You know what I mean?
Oh, hey, I looked it up. The movie that Jason was looking for earlier, Twister.
Twister. So that's another example, right? You're thinking to yourself like, I can't wait to see that on the big screen. When you saw because everybody only had 25-inch TVs at the time, man. We saw it we're like, that'll look really cool in the big screen. Now everybody's TVs are bigger, I feel like people, higher definition. They've got their own version of surround sound and everything. And it just, I just don't know that it has the same effect when people see something now. When they see it on TV, is the first thing they think, I can't wait to see that on just a slightly bigger screen and pay a lot of money to do it.
I have a prediction. Are you guys ready?
Jason, go ahead. Yeah.
Next year, there is something coming that it's going to change. It's going to make $2 billion. The Bluey movie will make $2 billion next year.
What movie?
The Bluey movie. That movie is going
Dan, do you not know about Bluey? Hold on. Do we need
the Bluey movie? I just finally understood what we're saying. I never I've seen Bluey at an amusement park. That's my 100% of my Bluey exposure.
Dan, do yourself a favor and watch 3 episodes and you'll be hooked. Okay.
You think I'm gonna watch 3 my kids are in their 20s, Tim. I don't have to watch Bluey.
Dan. No. Okay. This is an emergency therapy session from 3 guys with kids. Let us tell you, we enjoy that show a lot more than the kids do. Okay. All right.
Jonathan's not telling me to watch. Yeah. Okay. So he is.
Hey,
okay.
by the way,
all
guys, I have to be up for work in 6 hours.
Ooh.
It was a pleasure.
We
Thank
went
you so much
long.
for having me.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming.
Take care.
Bluey.
Yeah, I hope we haven't dashed your hopes. I hope you
hold on tight for Bluey, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night, Jonathan. All right. So, yeah, that was but that family movies are still but again, I don't know if we can stand. You were talking about how we were past the end of the characters in Marvel, right?
Yeah.
The number one movie that we all agreed is going to be the number one movie this year is Toy Story 5. We're two endings past those characters. We've already watched a really good ending, and then they chalked it away for a really crappy ending. So we're two endings deep.
And look what they do, though, Dan. Look what they do. Each one of those instances, though. And this is the thing. People say, okay, well, Marvel has all these bad endings and then they keep going, but Toy Story has these bad endings and they're keeping going. But Toy Story puts like 3 years in between movies. All right. That's the difference. The distance builds the anticipation, and the anticipation is what gets butts in the theater. And that's the problem. Marvel is never going to do that because it's a Disney property, and Disney thinks you have to have 3 movies out a year. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And see, Toy Story is part of Pixar. Pixar has to put out 3 movies a year, but one of them could be hoppers. You know what I'm saying? So they don't all have to be Toy Story. But yeah. But again, what I'm saying is, like, kids movies still bring people out, but you can only make so many Minions movies, I think. I don't know. Maybe the little yellow guy saying banana will be funny.
There's another one coming out this year, and I fully
Minions and Monsters.
It's going to make money. It will make money.
Yeah.
Well, this is a fun question.
Yeah. So what was the first blockbuster you saw in theaters? If it were released today, what would your box office prediction be? Okay. I'm going to tell you this. All right, hold on. Let me look this up while you guys give yours.
So
the third. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead, Jason. I still got to think about my number. Go ahead.
The first blockbuster I ever saw in a theater. I was 5 years old. It was my first movie in a theater. I saw Jurassic Park. And if that movie was released today, it'd make $2 billion.
Yeah.
I recently saw a lot of interviews with Steven Spielberg about Jurassic Park. It was did you know this, Jason? This is something he did because he had Disclosure Day come out, so he did a lot of interviews recently. And I saw his first choice for Alan Grant. Did you know who his first choice for Alan Grant was? Harrison Ford. It was great. Can you imagine if Harrison Ford was Alan Grant? That's crazy.
That movie was even more.
No, I think the first movie, and here's the thing, I did see Jurassic Park in theaters. Okay. I saw Jurassic Park in theaters. I don't remember it being like the worldwide event. I do remember seeing it, and it was a full theater and all that kind of stuff. But the first movie where I remember people telling me, you have to go see this movie. It was one of the best movies I've ever seen. You've got to do it. Was Independence Day. That was the movie where
I remember how great that movie
was. The anticipation for Independence Day, because the trailer was so ambiguous. All we knew was it was aliens. We didn't know anything about the story, the characters, the cast. We didn't know anything. And then all of a sudden you go, and it was one of those movies. I did hear somebody actually told me before I see it, it's one of those movies you just have to see on the big screen. And I remember that, and it was a very, very crowded theater. I remember I saw it at least twice in theater. And and if I had to put a number on the prediction for what it would do today, I don't think it would do that well today. I'll be honest with you. You know what I mean? Yep. I love Independence Day. Great movie. Revolutionary movie, I think. But I think if I had to put a figure with similar promotion and knowing that the cast is kind of an up and coming cast and all that kind of stuff, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say it'd do somewhere between 600-700 million today. If it was out there, 6 or 7.
So
yep. 6 or 7.
I had to look this up because you guys are going to call shenanigans on me, but I'm swearing on whatever the most righteous swear I could swear. Okay,
You're gonna say Return of the Jedi. You're gonna say Return of the Jedi, aren't you?
Yes. I was born August 24th, 1979. Okay.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi was released May 25th, 1983. Right.
Yeah.
So what you have to understand is I was 3 years old. I was 3 years old. I turned 4 that August, which would be 4 months later, right? So I actually remember, and you can believe me or not, that I was taken to the theater to see Return of the Jedi. I cried and I was afraid because it was so loud. And the most clear memories are Darth Vader in the theater, really loud, scaring me and crying. And my mom in the theater lobby demanding to the theater manager that it was too loud and he needed to turn it down. That is my I myself could barely believe that I was only 3 years old because I could remember this so clearly, but I knew I was so little that it scared me and I cried. And I knew that my mom tried to make the theater turn down the volume to a movie. Because that's just how moms were in 1983, guys. You just don't understand.
Don't you have any compassion for his tiny ears?
Yeah. Why they thought it was a good idea to take, I didn't take my 3-year-old to the movies. You know what I'm saying?
No,
because if you take a 3-year-old to the movies, they cry. I don't care if you take them to see a cartoon. They're going to cry. That's just what kids do at the movie theater. So, yes, the first Blockbuster, it might have been the first movie I saw in a theater. You know what I'm saying? I vaguely remember being taken to see Snow White in a re-release when I was around the same age, and that was overwhelming.
Re-release,
that was overwhelming. I was so young. I think it was maybe the next year. Maybe they tried again. He's a year older. It's a cartoon, but it was still just too much. It was too over. I was not ready for theaters yet. They kept trying though. They didn't give up. As to what Return of the Jedi would make in theaters today, I mean, it is such a different ecosystem. I mean, for Return of the Jedi to have been in theaters means that Star Wars would have had to come out 7 or 8 years ago, and we would be following Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi. Yeah. I said 7 or 8.
6 or 7.
Yeah. Anyway, so for that to work, I don't even know the ecosystem, but honestly, if Star Wars had came out in that time frame, say 2019, and Empire Strikes Back had come out in 2023, and we were looking at Return of the Jedi this year.
No other Star Wars.
Disney Wars.
Disney didn't own it.
Yeah, and if it had caught on, which it would have had to, I mean, I don't know. Return of the Jedi could make $2 billion in that time frame. Because I mean, it's just
1.5. Yeah.
I mean, that's and again, I was on AI trying to figure it out today. Again, being born in 1979, I'm not part of the baby boom or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm in a very small bandwidth of the population, but I feel like I grew up, and I don't know, you guys are a little younger than me, so maybe you don't feel like this, but I feel like popular culture was aimed squarely right at me and people my age for my first almost 40 years. Because again, in 1979, I was 4 when He-Man and Voltron and G.I. Joe all hit popular culture. You know, I was 8 or 9 when Ninja Turtles became huge, you know. But then when Scream came out, I was 17, which means I was the same age as Sidney Prescott and Billy Loomis in the movie. I feel like, I don't know why, but pop culture was aimed squarely at me. You know, and I feel like I feel like there should be more people exactly my age. You know, I was Gertie's age when ET was in theaters. I was the same age as Gertie. You know,
wild.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. Do you, like, you guys are like, Tim, you're closer to my age than Jason. I mean, is that just something we all feel like that's pop culture's aimed squarely at?
I think that's something that they try to do, right? That's something that they try to do. There's a reason why in the 80s and 90s they had kids of varying ages throughout every TV show, right? And you know, there were like 10 kids on Step by Step, right? And it wasn't because they wanted to do more than the Brady Bunch. It was because they wanted every kid to turn on the TV and say, oh, I like this kid because they're the same as me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's the same thing with the Cosbys. It was the same thing with Family Matters. It was the same thing with Full House. The reason you have kids of varying ages is because they're really trying to appeal to all the kids at once. And I'm with you, Dan. I feel like every single time I was watching a movie, it was pointed directly at me as the audience. You know what I mean? Because I'm with you right there. You know, the first time I saw E.T., you know, I was younger and Gertie was like, you know, was my age. I totally get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I see, you know, as you get older, then you watch ET again and you're like, okay, I'm Elliot now. You know what I mean? Like that's how it progresses and that's how things go. So yeah, I totally understand exactly what you're saying with all that.
Yeah.
And I do think that, you know, pop culture itself reaches out and grabs all of us, you know, at a certain period. You know, I was a lot younger than you. Not a lot younger than you, 3 or 4 years younger than you when Ninja Turtles became huge, and it just exploded because I started watching it on Saturday mornings, just knowing it was going to be there, you know, and you know, then and before that, Ghostbusters was a big deal for me. So I mean, I do feel like, you know, the pop culture has really progressed with people our age to the point where now we kind of feel like it's passed us by, because now we are not the video game crowd anymore. There are people our age that are into video games, but by and large, people our age got our IP from several other sources that aren't video games. And so I feel like pop culture has now passed us by, but when we were young, I'm with you, it was right there. It was every single step of the way until young adulthood. There was something that was a major property pointed right at our age demographic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel like all the way through Endgame, because we're comic nerds, all the way through Endgame, it was pointed square at us. You know, like, okay, this is based on the actual comics you bought and read when you were like 14 and 13, you know. It's like it's right at you. And then that's why I sit in an empty theater watching He-Man and I'm like, oh, it's over. The ride is over.
Yeah, exactly. It
So
was fun,
Jason, you're like did you feel like everything was pointed at your demographic?
I don't know, because like I said, I was really close with my grandma, and I was kind of the younger cousin. So all the stuff from the 80s, I just got to watch because, you know, people would record stuff on VHSs and stuff. So, I mean, the 90s was a pretty rad time. Like, you know, you had Nickelodeon was going strong, and you had like Snick. Do y'all remember Snick?
Oh yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
Are you afraid of the dark, Jason? Yeah.
That's where it started. That's what's wrong with me now. I started reading Goosebumps and watching Are You Afraid of the Dark, and now I can watch any horror movie.
So yeah, Anyway, that's just something I was looking at. So yeah, we went through our first blockbusters, and then John says nothing. I'll say it. It all started when they tried to give female versions of all these characters. I won't spend money on female versions of Ghostbusters, Ocean's 11, John Wick, Hawkeye, Black Panther, etc. It's not a great move, you know.
No.
I feel like that's the studio kind of reacting to the fact that it had already started to decline, though. I think that was the studio looking and saying we need to expand the audience because the audience demographic is shrinking. And I understand why they did it, but I also think that is a desperation play. And it wasn't just one property. There were rumors for years of a female James Bond, and I'm so glad it never happened. Right? Yeah. There were rumors of all kinds of other characters that were going to be female, and so I do think when that female Ghostbusters came out, that was the sign to me that the studio is just not listening to what the fans actually want. They're trying to expand the fan pool, and when you're trying to do that, you're trying to put square peg in a round hole. It's never going to work. So
now anyway. I would say Black Panther was not a creative choice. That was that was
he died. He died. Okay.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
Yes, it was like a 3-hour Shuri movie. Okay, and I don't think that's how it was billed. So
yeah.
So anyway.
I'm going to lay this out there. I think enough time has passed that I'm just going to say it. Casting Chadwick Boseman, right? That was corporate malfeasance at the highest level because it was not publicly known, right? But he had that diagnosis before they ever cast him as Black Panther and Winter Soldier. Like they knew. And before even if he didn't already know, if you're going to make a multi-million, almost $1 billion investment in an actor to be this type of IP, you send them to all kinds of physicals and stuff, and you find out. So they knew that he had a terminal illness when they cast him as Black Panther. And I'm not saying he didn't do a fantastic job. He did. But yeah.
He didn't even make it to the second movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, come on, guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was
I love Chadwick Boseman as an actor. 42 was a great movie. Alan Tudyk, very, very underrated performance there. But 42 was a great movie. But I do feel like, when you go back and look at it, those are the kind of decisions when we got to point back at the studio and say the studio is causing all these self-inflicted wounds that they didn't have to do. And, I love Chadwick Boseman. He'll always be the Black Panther, but is this something that could have been easily avoided? That's a question for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do it. I mean, it's sad, and he's there, and he would be great for it, but you're just looking at this like, this is a long-term investment. I need somebody that can play this character for 20 years. I need Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Oh, I texted this to you guys. Like, this is just, again, why I think movies are dead. I'm walking the hall of a movie theater after, I don't know what we had just seen. Oh, we had just seen Top Gun. The 40th anniversary, which, you know what? There were a lot of people in that theater, and I know everybody there had seen Top Gun at least 20 times, but they were there to see it again. But anyway, I'm sitting in the hall, and I see a poster, and this is how I know a new movie is it coming out this week, or there's a new movie with Hugh Jackman playing Robin Hood.
Oh yeah,
like, how did I not know that? Like what year was like Ridley Scott?
That we should have known.
Yeah, like what year was the Russell Crowe Ridley Scott Robin Hood movie?
Oh man, that was a long time ago.
But like it was
that
10
was a
years
while
ago,
ago.
right? It's like, but like
At
10
least,
years ago,
yeah.
10 years ago though, you big director, big movie star, plays Robin Hood. You had a summer tent pole. You know what I'm saying? That's all you needed. You know, in the 90s, all you needed was, hey, Kevin Costner is going to play Robin Hood. Now it's like Kevin Costner
Carrie Ellis, right?
Yeah,
or Carrie Ellis. Right.
Now, tights. But now it's like Kevin Costner burned down his whole career and left his hit show to make you this American Western, epic, and like 3 people buy a ticket.
Oh yeah, they didn't ever release part 2 or 3 of that, did they?
No, I mean, he shot him concurrently, right? So he spent his last dime editing the first one. Probably he can't even probably finish editing him.
Yeah, he was really banking on that Tombstone money.
Yeah. Kevin Costner is so great because he is continually willing to have a huge hit, make everybody love him, and then make these big swings that just wreck his career. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to make Dances with Wolves, but I'm going to follow that up with The Postman. Or I'm going to make, I don't know what was next, like Bodyguard, but after that, we're going to make Waterworld.
Yeah.
Waterworld.
He follows his own path, man.
Yes.
Oh, let's see here. Do you think part of it is people not wanting to commit to watching 10 years of movies to understand this movie right now?
That's a big part.
I feel like that might be part of, like, that might even affect Masters of the Universe, because even though it's the first one, they're like, I don't want to sign up for a new thing. I don't want a new franchise. Like,
it's very clear there are a lot of characters in Masters of the Universe. That's the big problem with a lot of this is, with Marvel, you've got tons of characters, but you're being introduced to them very, very slowly, very slow burn over decades, right? But when we're talking about Masters of the Universe, we were just introduced to basically all of Eternia in one movie. And, now we're going to have to see conflicts and motivations and character development for all those characters moving forward in the universe. It is going to be a lot of homework. And if you didn't know anything about those characters, you know enough to get through the movie, but what do you really know? I think a lot of people are going to feel like they have to go back and watch the TV show. And I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with it. But it was a different approach than Marvel took. Whereas Marvel kind of introduced you to everybody slowly, kind of had the big compilation movie 4 or 5 years later, and then kind of still slow burned another 2 or 3 years before they got into a whole bunch of their other stuff. I feel like now Masters of the Universe is just out there. People can take it, people can leave it, but the whole Eternia has been introduced now. So we'll just have to see. We'll have to see if people are willing to dive in. I feel like the sequel is where they're really going to push all their chips on the table. Yeah. They've got, 3-year window? You got a 3-year window. You got to give us a sequel within 3 years. Yeah. Okay. So give us a sequel within 3 years, promote it right, push all your chips in the middle of the table and see if people have bought in. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it does good on Prime, I guess that's what Amazon cares about anyway, even though we're all convinced there's no money in streaming. Amazon doesn't need any money from these movies. I don't even know why they're messing with it. I really don't know. They like Jeff Bezos just look like films. You know what I'm saying? Like they make all their money on data centers. They don't even need the store anymore. The money is all made on the data centers, but they feel like it would be a shame to shut the store down.
You're right, Dan. So he doesn't need this. So what is he doing? I feel like he just likes to go to the Hollywood premieres or something, or the Oscars, or I mean, what's the point? There's got to be a reason, because it's not money. It's clearly not money. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he just. I mean, it's for the same reason he does anything, I guess. Of course, there would be people who would tell us he should just liquidate his assets and buy everybody a sandwich and it would solve all the world's problems. But
all the
I
world
don't.
problems, yeah.
Hey man, I'll take my sandwich. Go ahead. That'd be great.
Not even understanding that if he tried to liquidate his billions, the economy would just tank. Because a lot of massive.
But I would get my ham sandwich, Dan. I would get my ham sandwich.
Flash ain't fast. In spite of underperforming, I feel like a lot of these movies were still good. If the studios can make these releases a big deal again, we could get the Blockbuster back. And that's the thing. I think they were good. Do you think they? So,
yeah, the movies were good enough where they could have made money, and I think about 10 years ago, a lot of these movies would have made money. The difference is the streaming window, the streaming options now. Not every studio had a streaming service back then. It was just like whether or not they could get it on Netflix or whether or not they could get it on, one of those other services. But there weren't a lot of streaming services 10 years ago. Now there's a plethora of streaming services. Every studio has their captive streaming service that they put all of their stuff on, and it's all there within 90 days of being in theaters. And I think that's our issue. I think they need to create the excitement, give somebody an incentive to go to the theaters. What are you going to give the fans that go see this in theaters that they're not going to get at home? And that's what we really need to push. I think they thought the idea of 3D or 4D would really change it. It hasn't. It really has not changed what people have decided to spend money on. The popcorn buckets have gotten amazing. I mean, amazing. All right. So it's not the fact that there's no good merch to buy. There's plenty of good merch to buy. Look at the Gray Skull popcorn bucket there with Dan. We saw the at bucket at Mandalorian and Grogu, and it was awesome. Okay.
It was also like $90.
Yeah, exactly. It was $89.95. But
yeah,
I think one of the things that you've got to give people some incentive to go to the theater. Is there going to be unseen footage that will only be seen in the theater? That's something, right? The post credits can only be seen in the theater. Maybe that's something, right? Like there's a lot of different things that you can do to try to drive people to get in the seats that you're not doing, and I think that's kind of the main issue. Right. Yeah. They need to examine some of those. They really do.
Yeah. That the scarcity and the exclusivity is what is missing. So I don't know. Jason, tell me again that horror movies are going to save my theater, because I'll go see as many horror movies as I have to.
Listen, I'm keeping a running tally of movies that Tim refuses to go see that are super good.
Did we start with Weapons? Was that the first? Or
is a big one. That's a big one. I think Weapons was the first one, and man, it's fun.
Did he leave?
Oh.
If you mention Weapons, every time you mention Weapons, I'm going black screen. Okay.
But I think where it really started is when Tim refused to rewatch Halloween 3. I think
I'm still no. I will look, man. You can sit here and make me watch a lot of garbage that I can sit here and pontificate on for 2 hours and 13 minutes like this, but I will refuse to watch Season of the Witch. Okay.
Listen.
I would rather have shards of glass poured into my eyes slowly, all right, than to ever watch that movie again.
Okay, so
ever.
I think we have 3 on the list. One of them starts with a W. I don't want you to close your screen.
Yeah,
I didn't say it.
You mentioned it in theory.
Okay.
Out of the 3 that I have told you would like, which one is the most intriguing?
I am the most intrigued by Weapons, I think. All right. I'm the most intrigued by Weapons. But that's, it's like asking which one of these turds do you want to eat first? I mean, it just, to me,
no, that's not fair. Turds don't have it like above 70% on Rotten Tomatoes.
But
Weapons is on streaming now, right?
Here's the thing. Like of the three, I think, I think that's. I mean, Obsession. I've heard good things about it. Just doesn't look like my style of plot, to be completely honest. But I do think that Weapons looks like it's intriguing. Okay, and it's intriguing in the same way that Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane were, where the trailers were very ambiguous, and that leaves a lot of space that you have to go see the movie to fill in, which I really do like in a horror movie. So I don't completely dislike the horror genre. I don't want people to think that I do. I don't in fact, I actually defended it on this very channel against Jonathan, who just left us. I defended the horror genre in one of our debates. So I actually am a horror fan. I'm more of a classic horror fan. Just that's just kind of how I am. But yeah, of those, I would go see Weapons. I don't know if a movie, and this is kind of where I think we're going to have a little disagreement, Jason. I understand that you like the movies, and I understand that the movies make a lot of money for the studio because the expenses are low and the returns are high. Yeah. I don't think that that's going to be what's going to save the movie theaters, though, and that's the problem. I think that the movie theaters are they only rely on one thing, and that's butts in the seats. And the one thing that horror movies don't typically do is drive lots of butts to the seats. That's the main problem. So
again, I keep going back to Obsession. Obsession keeps doubling the week before.
But that's what, right? I mean, yes, it started at less than 100, and then it went to 300, and now it's what? It's pushing 600 or 700, something like that. So that's good, but that's still not going to be what's going to make up for all these other losses, and that's kind of the main issue. We're talking about you got to have a couple of horror movies that are going to be $1.5 billion horror movies in order to start making up for that. And that's just never going to happen.
For a long run, we were getting like 1.5 end games a year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
The top 3 at the box office were over $1 billion.
It couldn't last though. Like that can't last. That's the reason now everybody's shooting for $1 billion movie, and the quality's gone way down.
Yeah, well, and that's why we're seeing everybody release. Everybody's got their animated captives that they're going back to. You got Toy Story, and you got Minions and all that stuff happening this year because those are the cash cows, man. We just had Super Mario Galaxy. That's going to be a big one. Where did that one finish, by the way? That one had to finish huge, right?
Let me look that up. I liked it. Did you guys see it? I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I did not see it. Thank God.
You didn't see it? It wasn't. I mean, it was funny. You know what I'm saying? Like the first one was. They get a lot of gruff, but I think they're decent movies.
Yeah.
So box. I mean, again, it's every bit as good as a movie based on Super Mario Brothers should be. You know what I'm saying? That's like I left my Masters of the Universe, and I'm like Nerdrotic hates it. I'm like, how much better could a He-Man movie be? And I'm like, I would posit, none better. You know what I'm saying? Like if they made it more grounded and serious, then it's not a He-Man movie. It's a Conan movie. They honored the source material. Look, Galaxy made $1.005 billion.
Yeah.
So that's Mario Galaxy.
I mean, there you go, man. When you recognize what your cash cow is and you start writing it, that's great. And I appreciate that the studios are doing that. But you can't just have a cartoon in theaters all the time in order to do that. At some point, you got to hit with something else. And they just haven't done it in a long time. And that could be a problem. We need to start seeing $1 billion movies that aren't cartoons. We need to start.
I'm not buying a ticket to Toy Story 8. I'm just not doing it.
Exactly.
Exactly. And
at what point are we going to look back and say, okay, we're at 3D Jaws where it's attacking people in the restaurant? Like, at what point are we going to do that with some of these movies? You know what I mean? We're not there yet, but when will we get there?
I'm not watching the live action adaptation of The Rescuers Down Under. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to live action Oliver and Company. You know, that's not.
Yeah. They tried the Chippendale Rescue Rangers thing and it didn't work out. You know, it's like at some point, guys, you just got to admit, like, we need to start making a good movie again. And I don't know. I'm waiting on Marvel. I'm waiting on Star Wars to kind of see that their plan is kind of worn out and they need to reboot. But I don't know that Disney is just not big into reboots. That's the biggest problem. They've got properties that definitely could use a reboot, but they're just not big into reboots. So
no. All right. So I think we rounded it out. And again, I'm actually gonna take the ray of hope that Jason's giving me. I know that Tim is poo-poo in it, but I'm gonna say maybe the Cineplex will be saved by horror films. Because even though people have forgotten
films, that's where it's at.
People have forgotten that it's more fun to laugh in a group, and comedies don't even come out in theaters anymore. They seem to remember that it's more fun to get scared in a group. You know, because again, the scenes that make you jump in a theater are kind of like everybody else jumps too, and so you're all startled, and it's great. When you watch it at home, you might not even get scared. It might not even startle you at home, because if you're watching at home, for one thing, you're probably staring at your phone and you don't even get startled anyway. You know what I'm saying? Or like, you know, you paused it in the middle of the thing and went to go take a pee, and then you came back and you broke the whole tension, you know? So that's why watching stuff at home just really isn't where it's at, folks. Go to a theater, buy a ticket to something this weekend. You know, I hear Disclosure Day actually did well. I intended to go, but I couldn't leave the house.
I had no desire.
No, like, what is it that like turn? I mean, I'm thinking Steven Spielberg doing Aliens. That's guaranteed good to me. Like, that's E.T. and Close Encounters.
I tell you where he lost me is when he was like, I expect this movie to make you question your faith. And I was like, I don't know if this movie looks that great, Steve.
It's a big swing for a popcorn movie. Yeah. I would think Schindler's List may make you question your faith in humanity, but I don't know if a movie about an alien invasion does that. Yeah. This is Steven, you're not making Amistad still. This is about aliens.
This is the guy who made BFG. Like, never forget that.
Yeah.
I also am in a very, very small minority of people. Dan, we might not be friends after this. I don't know. I have watched Close Encounters once, and I did not like it. Okay. So I never watched it again. And so my trust of Steven Spielberg and Aliens is 50-50. Okay. So
you got a 50-50 shot.
I got E.T. and I got Close Encounters. So yeah. So I'm not as trusting as you, I suppose.
I will
Tim,
say
I'm gonna side with you a little bit here. I have never finished Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Wow. You've never made it all the way through. Whoa.
I think I was way too young when I tried to watch it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's a slow, like if you're a kid and you're like, okay, this guy made Raiders of the Lost Ark and E.T. and
that's
Gremlins and you know, like this is gonna be like that. It's not like that. It's a little slower. It's kind of
not that kind of movie, Dan.
What's that?
It's not that kind of movie, Dan.
Yeah, it's not that kind of movie. It kind of. I will say that as we like to say on our channel, it kind of insists upon itself.
It does. It does.
Yeah,
I think the Godfather of alien movies. That's a great point. It's
the Godfather of Spielberg movies. I think of all the Spielberg movies, you know, even more than Schindler's List, more than you know, any of them, more than Amistad, more than Saving Private Ryan. Close Encounters of the Third Kind kind of insists upon itself. You know,
it does a tiny bit.
Yeah, it wants you to know that this is deep. So So yeah, it I remember it being a slow mover. I think I would actually like it more than I did when I first watched it, because I'm not as big a fan of that as Spielberg's other big works, like Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, the fact that he made Indiana Jones, I'm just gonna give him a pass. Anything he does, I'll give it a try, because man, he gave me 3 great indie movies. Only 3. He burned me on the 4th.
We can sit here and talk about some interesting decisions that he's made, because there are some movies that are just not great. There are some movies that are great. The one thing that is never in dispute with me about Steven Spielberg is that he is absolutely the most brilliant filmmaker at placing the camera in Hollywood history. Okay.
Yeah.
That there is not a filmmaker out there that has ever been better. Like even in the trailer for Disclosure Day, where you see the girl laying on the table and you see the alien hands come around her, like those are clearly prosthetics, and it's just flawless editing, flawless camera work. There is nobody better. And I go back to the Jurassic Park examples and all the prosthetics and CG and the lighting and everything that he did to make that look as fluid as possible. Jaws was another example of just using a prosthetic shark and going 20 feet out in the ocean and making it look like you're miles out in the ocean. He's just brilliant at all of that stuff. And so I've got to give Steven Spielberg a lot of credit. He's one of my favorite directors for that. All his movies are not home runs, but his camera work and his directing always are. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
he gets on base.
So what I heard is that Tim's favorite movie is The Color Purple. I'm sticking with that.
Or Roots, right?
But anyway, Jason, is there anything people need to keep their eyes out for? Have you getting back to your?
Just keep watching the Instagram. You never know. I got irons in the fire. Normally at the end of this video, I say Hell State, but I have a special sign off because I am entrenched in the World Cup this week. So,
USA.
Hold on.
You'll know.
Okay, and then Tim, what are we doing next week? Do we know what we're doing next week?
We're probably going to do a little Supergirl preview, I'd imagine, right? Because Supergirl does come out next week. We'll do a little Supergirl preview, and then maybe at some point next weekend, we will look into maybe seeing the movie and doing a recorded review. We'll look into that. If not, it's just what we'll review the week after. So we'll see. So anyway,
all right. Now that's the one where Jason Momoa plays Gene Simmons, right?
Yes, correct.
What?
Okay. So I just wanted to be clear. It's Jason Momoa as Gene Simmons. If he doesn't spit blood or breathe fire, I'm going to be really disappointed. Or play God of Thunder. If he needs to play God of Thunder before the movie's runtime is over. So until next week, I'm Dan. That is Tim. We are the Nerd Champs, and we'll see you next week. OH!
IO, baby.
Beat Australia.